Hey crew, it's Pitt, and I am back with some more Esoterica. Today we are going to be diving back into the tarot. It will be something that you're not used to seeing. We will be talking about the journey of enlightenment that takes place in the tarot. But before we begin, we have to talk about a few other things. I mentioned in the video where we laid the groundwork for this that you should go back and watch the fundamental harmonics of life. That is because there is a repeating pattern that we need to be aware of. I am fully convinced that everything in reality works on an 8-bit pattern, right? 10 is the number that we use for mathematics, but 8 is the fundamental building block of reality. It is the 4 points that are the human squared into the 8 points that are the fully realized human. So we have 4 numbers that we really need to pay attention to, right? The number 1 is the number of the one. It is everything, it is all of creation, and it is the individualized you. The number 3, which is the Trinity, right? The body, the mind, and the spirit, right? The meat suit, the thing that you pilot around this 4D existence. The mind, the soul, the individualized part of you that makes the actual decisions in the 4D reality, and the being, the spirit, the becoming that is time as it passes and reality is unfolding. Sorry about that. And the number 7, which is the completion of the pattern, right? Because there is 7 steps in the harmonic, and the 8th step is the beginning of the new, and the 8th, which is the beginning of the new, right? So we have 1, 3, 8, or 1, 3, 7, and 8. Now 7 is a minor variation of this, and it only really is used when there is the 8th completion that might be separate. That sounds a little bit weird, and you're like, I don't even know what you're talking about here, Pitt, but it's going to become plain as we go along. There are 22 major arcana cards. They can be divided into 3 sections of 7 and 1 standing by itself. If you go and you read the Rider-Waite book that we read from yesterday, you will see the order that these are placed in, and it is an order in the Great Arcana. There is an order that has been used even though it doesn't make sense. There is 1 through 20, and then 0, and then 21. Sometimes it's 19, then 0, and 20, and 21. But that is placed there for a reason, and we will get to that reason eventually. Those 1 through 21 can be divided into 3 equal separate sections. 1 through 7, 8 through 14, and 9 through 21. Or 15 through 21, 9 through 21. 15 through 21. Those are going to be overlaid, and you will see what I mean by that in a little while. We have 4 suit cards, right? We have the Pentacles, we have Swords, we have Cups, and we have Wands. There are 14 cards in each one of those suits. Those can be divided into 2 separate sections, 7 and 7. The second 7 is where the overlay happens with the major arcana. We will be diving into this. I'm just laying the groundwork here for as we go along. Those 4 plus the 3, right, as they are overlaid, gives us 8 separate divisions. The first division is 1 section, and then the next division is a second section. So it is Pentacles 1 through 7 tells 1 story, and then Pentacles 8 through 14 tells a second story that is augmented by the greater arcana. I believe that is going to lay all the frame and all of the groundwork that we need to start actually discussing these things. Now, this is going to be a little bit different than the type of video that I normally do, because you won't be seeing my smiling face. There's a lot of information to relay. I have narrowed down, right? There are greater explanations for each one of these cards in the link down below, where you can go and see the traditional readings of these cards. You can go and see the traditional ways that they are interpreted and things of that nature. I have condensed, to the best of my understanding, the intention behind the card. That is taking in the graphics, taking in the explanation that is provided in the link down below, and my own intuition as to how these things fit together. I am a great breaker of narratives. I like to see patterns and I like to see what the working part of that is. I did that with the Bible. We did a whole Bible study where we went through and we looked at all the patterns. I did that with the MBTI system where I have completely reworked how it works into something that is functional and logical. I do that a lot. It is part of what I do. It is part of my gift of discernment. I could be wrong, and I fully acknowledge that here and everywhere that I do anything that is based off of my own stuff. I am perfectly fine with being corrected. As long as it is a logical argument that I have not considered, I will consider it. I will sit down and try to understand where you're coming from and all of those things. So if you disagree with me at any point, feel free to leave it down below. As long as it stays respectful, we will continue to talk about it. Now, let us dive in, and we are going to begin talking about the fool's journey. This is not the fool's journey that you are used to. Who is the fool? The fool is the unknowing. I spelled that wrong. I see that now. I say unknowing, right? The unknowing, the uninitiated, the origin. It is becoming aware, and it is becoming the seeker of the truth. Everybody, when they leave their parents' house, is the fool at this particular point. It is the entirety of the world is out before you, and you are not quite aware of it yet. Which brings us into the Ace of Pentacles. Now, the Ace of Pentacles is the understanding that the journey is beginning. You are going from the zero of the fool, the unlimited potential, and you are going into the beginning of the journey of the world. Pentacle is the pentacles that we are dealing with are the symbol for earth in alchemy and in these cards. This is the journey for the mastery of the earthbound things, the things that are your job, your relationships, your house, all of the things that deal with externally the world. You recognize that the Ace of Pentacles is the journey. You come to the realization at the number 1. This is another thing. You see here, we got it in red. That color will change, but the meaning does not. There is another repeating pattern. 1 through 7 are different steps along this path, with 7 being the end and 8th being the beginning of the new one and a start of 1 again. So we're going to go through 1 through 7, and then we will pick back up at 1 because it is a new realization. So you come to the realization that you must go out into the world and you must be successful on your own because nobody is going to support you anymore. You are a full-grown adult. You must go out and find a craft. Well, as you step out into the world and you go to find your craft, you are faced with choices. The 2 of Pentacles is the infinite choice of what do I want to do with my life. Do I want to go in this direction? Do I want to go in that direction? It is a choice. It is an infinite series of choices because you have not yet committed to a path. You have not chosen your job. You have not chosen your spouse. You have not chosen your city, even in many cases. And so this is the infinite possibility. This is the opportunity for growth. This is the choice that you have to make if you are going to be the master. If you are going to actually do the things to actually grow yourself into the person that you are meant to be, if you're going to take control of your own life, then you have to choose a craft. That is what this point is. This is the point of decision. This is number 2, which is choice. And then we get into 3. And 3 is where you start learning your craft, whether that is the craft of doing a job, which is displayed here, or whether that is the craft of your relationships in life. You are becoming who you need to be by apprenticing, learning the craft, and accumulating the skill. The number 3 is the process of learning things from other people. You have seen that you need to do it, you have made a decision on what to do, and now you are in the physical process of actually learning the actual craft. Once you have begun to learn your actual craft, you spend some time in there, and then you get to point 4, where you begin to understand your craft. This is applied knowledge, this is independence, and this is also greed, right? You have to, at this point, face the temptation of success. This is you going out and claiming success with the pentacle over your head and holding on to the growth and the success of the pentacle in your arms and standing on the firm foundation of the choice that you have made. This is you becoming proficient at your craft, but not quite yet a master. You have completed your apprenticeship and you are beginning to go out into the world and becoming who you are meant to be. In the process of this, you are going to face a change in your life. The 5 is change, it is contention, it is rough circumstances, and it is the trial that you must go through in order to shape you into the strength that is becoming. You have finished your apprenticeship. You see the window behind the people here. You have begun doing your own mastery, but now your circumstances are different. You are no longer being taken care of by the person who was teaching you your craft. You are instead responsible for your own self. Now, this is the provocation to change. This is you going out into your own world. This card looks rather desolate, but the actual definitions of it aren't necessarily that way. There are some interpretations of it that take it as a kind of a almost lovers. I don't really like that particular take, but this is I am striking out on my own as opposed to within your journeymanship. So this is either you taking the knowledge that you have had and applying it into your life and changing your circumstances. It is you struggling to become the master of the trade that you have chosen. It could be becoming the master of your relationship, but really those come into play a little bit later. Next up is the number 6 card, where you have overcome the challenges of the 5th card. This is charity, this is success, and this is remembrance. You are remembering the hard times that have brought you into the world that you are in now. You have struggled through the change of striking out on your own, and now you are become successful in your craft. You are at the point where you can judiciously give charity. You are successful in your place. Which brings us into number 7. Number 7 is the number of completion. It is a successful harvest. It is provision, and it is the cycle complete. You have become successful inside of your craft. You have planted the seeds. You have overcome the greed. You have started to understand the charity. So you are balancing between greed and charity, right? Those are the two polar parts. This is the journey of becoming the enlightened one at its beginning, because once you have overcome the first couple of issues, then you start seeking the eternal, which is going to bring us into the beginning of the next section. And this is where things start getting a little bit strange for y'all. I understand that it is a little bit different than what you're going to be used to seeing. Let me turn this off real quick because we are no longer dealing with the fool. It is at this point that you make another choice, right? You become once again aware of what is going on. Let me turn this on. Once again, we are at realization. Remember, 8 begins again the cycle and the pattern. So here we have the realization that you have mastered your craft, and now there are more things to master. You have illustrated in this card the ascension of man begun. What do you mean, Ped? If you look, we have 6 pentacles nailed to the post. We have 1 pentacle that he is working on, and then we have 1 pentacle that is waiting off to the side. The pentacle that he is working on is the awareness pentacle, right? This is the point where you are. You have already passed the one, which is the bottom one nailed to the pole. You are grabbing the second one because you have a realization now that ascension is a real thing. This is the point in which the initiation to the secret clubs happen, right? This is the point where you're sworn to secrecy about all of the things. This is the point where you start going through the rituals in the clubs. You have proven yourself to be the master of your craft, right? You are successful in your business, which is one of the requirements for being a Mason. You have to be able to support yourself. You have to be a productive member of society. And so you have the mastery of the craft, but now you realize that there are more. You are starting to see the divine side of the equation, right? At the top, we have the pentacles here, and that is the beginning of alignment. You are starting to work on your stack. You have the 7 internal and the 1 external, which is symbolized by the 1 on the ground. And when you have properly aligned the 7, you get access to the 8th. That is the wrong thing. And next, and on the bottom here, we have the explanation for the actual magician, right? The magician is the awareness. It is initiation. It is seeking the divine in the world. And it is eternal thoughts. It is the realization that the eternity is a thing. Which is going to bring us to 8, 9. 9 of Pentacles is prudence. It is abundance and it is accomplishment. It is the choice, right? You have already been accomplished. You have already overcome greed. You have already begun to learn charity. And now you are living in the blessings of the abundance from 7, right? That it was the completion, the harvest. And then you make the realization, and now you have to make the choice. Are you going to be between the pillars of Boaz and Jachin that are shown right here, the B and the J? Are you going to rule the arcane, which is symbolized by the moon at her feet? There are a lot of symbologies in these cards, but this is about the choice. This is about the balance, and this is about learning the actual laws that govern us in the real world. This is where I'm going to key in, and you go check out the 8 laws of creation, because this is where that comes into play. This is the intentional service to the divine in a very, very real way. So 9 is going to be the choice, right? It is going to tie into 2 of the major arcana. And then next up, we are going to, let me get it pulled up here. And so we get into the 10 of Pentacles, which is riches, family matters, and generations. It is corresponding to the 3 in the major arcana, because we are once again starting the pattern anew, and it is dealing with learning about the greater mysteries in the world. It is generational provision. It is abundance and planning, and it is learning of the true world. You have gotten the rules, and now you must learn them, right? You must internalize them, and you must repeat them. This is very much like being apprenticed in the craft. You have to learn to apply this in a very, very real way. It is ensuring that you are using not just for yourself, but also for those who are your generations, the things that you are bringing into the world. And then once you have learned these things and internalized them, you become the Page of Pentacles. It is time to take it out into the world, right? You have learned it, you have understood it, or now you are understanding it. You are reflecting upon the things that you are learning. You are studying so that you can practically apply them, and it is management of the resources that you have been giving. It is for the understanding of the lesson. You have learned it, now you understand it, and it is time to once again go out into the world. It is tied to the Emperor card, which is the 4. It is greater need. It is judicious provision. It is protection, and it is wise application. You don't just know the rules now. You are able to go out and use them correctly. You are able to go out and affect change into the world. And that is what you are called to do. Now that you have learned now that you have understood, now is the time to go forth into the greater mysteries of the world. This is the accumulation of status more than anything else, right? You have learned your craft, you have perfected your craft, you have learned that there are others in the world, and now you are in service to the others in the world through divine will. Uh, the Knight of Pentacles is the practical application of the knowledge. It is becoming the change in the world that you are designed to be. You are here to learn lessons. You are here to apply this knowledge. You are here to help other people to change in the manner in which they are supposed to change. That is not up to you. You are here to be the example. You are the knight. It is tied in the Greater Arcana to the Keeper of the Keys, the Hierophant, the teacher of change and the guide in the arcane. You can see that he's the keeper of the keys. He has them at his feet. That is the golden key and the silver key. We talked about those in other places. He is the teacher of change. Now you have become the person who can go forth and be the change in the world. You are the guide to show other people the correct path. You know the world. You have internalized it, and now you are the guide. Which is going to bring us into the Queen of Pentacles. Once you have become successful, once you have learned to manage your greed and to judiciously be charitable, now is the time for generosity and magnificence. You are at the point of overcoming the challenges. You are at the point where you are the example of how to do, how to be, what to do, and what to be. You are, as tied to the lovers here, pure love, divine growth, and partnership. You are close to, but not quite at, the completion of your path of material growth. The point of material growth is you can accumulate things, but you don't necessarily need to hold on to them. Tools are useful. Make sure that you're using the tools in the responsibility of pure love, divine growth, and partnership. And then that will bring us into the last section. Well, that is the wrong thing. There it is. Okay. Which brings us into the last section in Pentacles. This is the King of Pentacles. This signifies the completion of the material growth. This is intelligence. This is business success, and this is mathematics. This is the number 7. This is the completion of the second part of the pattern. This is signified by the Chariot, which is the mastery of earth. It is conquest, and it is success. You are not just between the pillars. Now the pillars are the thing that literally pulls you through the world. It is literally the propelling force, the balance of the virtues and the vices within yourself has become the thing which you are meant to be. Which, if you do it correctly and if you are taking the time, you will now realize that once again, you have indeed become the fool. You thought that you knew a lot of things when you became the master of your craft. You thought that you knew a lot of things when you learned to overcome greed and when you struck out on your own. You thought you learned a lot of things when you overcame. And then you realized that there's a whole nother level to this. Yes, I am a successful businessman and I have these employees. Well, now it is my job to ensure that these employees become the best that they can be. That is the striving of the second, right? The first is you learning your craft, and the second is you teaching the craft to others. The first is becoming who you need to be inside of the world, and the second is teaching others how to become who they need to be inside of the world. So once again, we have become the fool. There is a new path of progression that we must take place on. It is contained within the suit of swords. The suit of swords is the element of fire. It is the changing. It is the realization of self. It is the mastery of violence. The Ace of Swords is the realization of the path. This can happen during the middle of the other one, but it is probable that it will happen at the end, and that you will realize that Not only are you affecting yourself, but you are affecting others around you, and that your capacity for violence is a thing. The Ace of Swords symbolizes triumph, it symbolizes the realization of yourself, and it symbolizes victory through force. At some point, you will be faced with force. At some point, you will almost certainly apply force in your life, and it does not necessarily have to be violence against others, although that is very much intimated all the way through this suit. Once you are aware that there is another path, the path to self mastery, you must make the choice. The Two of Swords represents conformity in choice. It is blind allegiance, but it is also the courage to make the choice for something else, to no longer comply with the things that have been a part of your life. You are realizing that somewhere you must master yourself. You must become the best you that you can be. You have already mastered the craft of the world, and now it is up to master yourself and your internal conflicts. The choice is normally followed by a division, a betrayal, or by broken faith. This is an opportunity to learn so that you can go forth with a new understanding that the way that you viewed the world was not quite the correct way, that there is something new out there, that your ideals have been broken. The betrayal by others has brought upon you a change in some circumstances. It is not a voluntary change. It is you having to learn the lessons of division, betrayal, and broken faith. These are the things that can be hard to rationalize if you are a determinist or someone who believes that everything is laid out for you. It is hard to realize that the lessons that you have to learn from division, betrayal, and broken faith can actually lead into a greater understanding. Now, generally speaking, this is signified by a hermit's retreat or exile in solitude. It is the defeat of conformity. Once you understand that the world is not exactly aligned in the correct way, that somehow, some way, the world operates in a way that is designed to hold you back. Unless you can break out of the conformity that is everybody else's understanding of the world and come to a new understanding of how the world is actually supposed to work. Once you have come to this realization and once you have made the choice, yes, I am indeed going to change my life, then you have to defeat the inner urges of yourself. This is the defeat of self. This is not someone else defeating you, although that is one of the interpretations of the card. This is a revocation of self, and this is a loss of self. This is you choosing a separate path than the one that you were on. The one intimated here is again violence. You have decided to give up violence. The man holding the swords in this has a slightly mocking demeanor. He is looking at those who have given up the violence with a slightly disdainful cast. You are not the guy holding the swords. You are the guy who has given up the swords. Which leads to the next step in the process where you go into voluntary solitude. This is a voluntary exile. This is a decision by yourself to remove yourself from the world, to no longer play by the rules that have been very much a part of your life all the way up to this point. This is taking the knowledge that you have learned about the betrayals. This is applying what you have gone through so that you can understand that you are responsible for your actions. You are responsible for removing yourself from the situation, and you are responsible for ensuring that the circumstances that you are currently in are teaching you the appropriate lessons on how to overcome your current circumstances. And then once you have finished that, you get to the level of completion for the third step of the process. This card's a little bit weird because it is the attempted disarmament. There is no resolution to the conflict here. This is someone attempting to avoid a conflict. He is sneaking in through subterfuge and removing the arms from the opposition. This is not a direct confrontation. This is not someone stepping into their strength, into a way that they can complete the task that they are supposed to complete. This is the mastery of self, when you can remove yourself from the situation and attempt to remove the tools that are being used against you from the situation as well. Again, this is not direct confrontation. This is the mastery of your internal struggles with wrath, so that you no longer fly off the handle and try to hurt people with no reason, and you no longer do not consider the implications of your actions. This is taking responsibility for yourself and trying to take responsibility for those around you in a very real way. Which will lead us once again into the new one. Let me pop that over. And this is the realization that you cannot do that. You can isolate yourself. That is a thing. You can, but yet the world is still violent. This is the step of restrained aggression. You have removed yourself from the aggression, but it is a crisis being placed upon you so that you come to the awareness that other people are not on the same path as you. They are not even on the path of self control, on the path of self actualization. This is you beginning the fourth step in the cycle of realizing that you have the fortitude, strength of will, and the judicial use of force to be able to defend yourself in the correct manners, but also to be able to exert your will outside of yourself through the mastery of yours. That's going to bring us into the dark night of the soul. This is where you have to decide where you are actually going to stand. This is an overwhelming circumstance that is placed upon you. This is the decision to serve either the light side or the dark side of the higher self. This is required isolation. This is the choice that you are making for the intentional service of self, the denial of self, the beginning of becoming the light bringer. You are the solitary man. You have seen the difference in the world. You are aware that there is another path, and now you are choosing once again to isolate yourself and to achieve the greater knowledge and the divine mysteries. You are on a solitary path as the light bringer, which of course is going to bring in betrayal and desolation. There will be a series of defeats as you are learning the process of how to deal. And so you are going to have to submit once again to learning the things of this world. You are going to have to submit once again to learning all the parts of the world. You are going to have to learn what is divine intention and to see the good in the circumstances, even when the circumstances are pretty terrible. You are going to have to learn to accept your troubles as part of the process. This is the learning process of the self. When you can understand that no matter what circumstance you are going through, it is for your betterment. There is a lesson for you to learn, and there is a path for you to grow, even through what seems to be the final solution, right? The imagery here is final in a very real way. But you can see, as illustrated on the card, the beginning of the light starting to show. The new day is dawning. You have learned the parts that you are supposed to so that you can begin to understand your place in the world and to take the self-authority to seize the sovereignty and to examine within yourself and understand the practical application of the things that you have just learned. Begin to understand self authority. This is the Page of Swords is where you seize the sovereignty for yourself. You have taken the lessons, you are internalizing them, you are bringing them to the forefront inside of yourself. It is the full understanding of divine will, which is taking into account the hardships and the practical application, right? You are now ready to go forth into the world with justice, which is rightful understanding and balanced morality, not the complete denial of things, but the judicious use of things. Once you come to the full understanding of your place, it's going to bring about change in your life. Then you go into the active defense, the resistance, and the war. This can seem a little aggressive, but it's not an aggressive stance. This is a willing sacrifice as signified by the hangman. It is a life spent in service. It is trying to do the thing that you're meant to do. It is awakening the potential inside of yourself and taking it into the world. The Knigget here is very much actively going forth to conquer the world, but he is doing it with the full understanding of his inner nature, of the people outside of himself, and taking into account the practical application, right? The willing sacrifice for others, to stand in defense of other people. It is a life in service. That is the change, that is the natural outgrow from the development of self. And that will allow you to overcome. We get to the Queen of Swords, who is about transformation. It is passage into higher morality. It is not, I am better than you because my morals are better. It is, I am going to stand where my morals lie, whether or not you agree with that. It is separation from the world and self-denial for self-growth. It is the internal sorrow from the transformation to your higher self. It is casting away, causing the death of the person that you used to be so that you can go forward and judiciously rule in the defense of other people. And then the final step that we are going to talk about today is going to be the completion of the mastery of self. As the King of Swords, you have the authority. You have conquered the 7 virtues and vices. You have aligned your chakras in the proper manner so that you have now self-control, higher realization, and divine rule is a very much a part of your life. It will be evidenced. You have the ability to righteously judge. That doesn't mean that you get to go running around casting judgment on everyone, but you hold yourself in the position where you are correct most of the time. Nobody's ever correct all of the time, but at this point, you have taken full responsibility for yourself so that you know you are the entire reason why the path exists. Not only that, but you are in control of the path. This path opens up for you from the self-denial. It opens up for you from the self-control. It opens up for you from doing the things that you know to be correct. And then, when you have, once again, received the mastery of, let me turn this one over real quick, you once again become the fool. Because you realize that there is yet a third path of mastery, one that you have not yet stepped foot upon. And so, once again, you become the unknowing. You become the uninitiated. You become the origin. You become aware. You become the seeker of God's will in your life. It is the divinity of self, which we will get into in the next video. It is the mastery of the supernatural. This first 4 steps in this 8-part process, in my estimation, outlays the path to ascension in a very real way. The steps outlined here are not necessarily one after the other. It is a progressive, right? You can go forward, you can regress, you can find new steps that you were unaware of and have to start pretty much from scratch. But it is the continual practice of identify the problem, right? Realization is 1. Make the choice. That is 2. Learn what you need is the 3rd. The 4th, to understand the things that you have learned. The 5th is to actually go forth and change your life. The 6th is to overcome the challenges that will arise when you change your life. And then the 7th part is always completion. The 8th step is always the beginning of the new pattern. We will be stepping into the pattern of yourself, right? The divine self, the spiritual body, the minutia within, in the next episode, the next the Esoterica episode. Hopefully, I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion. If you have questions or comments, leave them down below. If they stay respectful, I'll let them stay up. If you like what I'm doing here, hit me with a like, share, and a sub. If you really like it, hit me with that super thanks. I am only trying to be the light bearer here. I am on this path of progression. I have been for a while. It is why I was able to so easily recognize it. I understand that I hold some unconventional beliefs. It is not my first time in that particular rodeo. I don't step on toes intentionally, but I don't apologize for it. I will absolutely reveal the truth as it has been shown to me unequivocally. I'm trying to lay out in as plain of terms as I possibly can the steps that are necessary for you to begin mastery of yourself. You do need to master the outside world. You should be judicious and diligent and interrogative, right? You should be questioning your reality. You should be choosing the path that makes you happy. You should be invested with your whole soul into becoming the best at your craft, whatever craft you have chosen. Do whatever you do with the diligence as though you were doing it for God. You also need to master yourself. You need to get control between the virtues and the vices. Some people have a process within these clubs. I don't like clubs. I'm not good with authority. I'm really not good with secrecy. Hopefully, I don't bring too much confusion as I'm doing this. But if I do, let me know and I will attempt to do more. The next step of this is basically a repeat of what we've done here. There's not a whole lot new going to be coming until we get to wands, and that's a little bit different. But this appears to be, to me, the simplest way to really quantify growth. There are 8 separate sections, right? There are 2 in pentacles. There are 2 in swords. There are 2 in cups, and there are 2 in wands. And each one of these steps is necessary before you can really jump into the next one. Sometimes they get a little bit confused, but for the most part, they are sequential. Master your craft, and then you can master yourself. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been Pitt State. Peace.